Cold open. Dale Ferris was 34 years old, mildly allergic to shellfish, and currently 3 days behind on his laundry. He worked the night shift at a regional distribution warehouse in Ohio, forklifting pallets of bottled water until his back ached and his coffee went cold in the break room microwave. He wasn't special. He'd never finished community college. He once got lost in his own hometown for 2 hours because he trusted a GPS more than his own memory. So when the recruiter, a woman in a gray suit who didn't blink enough, slid a tablet across the table and said, "We need people willing to go somewhere dangerous. For good pay, no questions asked." Dale just shrugged. "Beats forklifting," he said, and signed the form without reading past the second paragraph. Warning scene. The recruiter's smile faded the moment his signature dried. "Mr. Ferris, I need you to understand the Kestrel Division doesn't do delivery routes or cushy embassy work. You'll be assigned to rescue and extraction, hostile biospheres, unstable ecosystems. Casualty rates among contracted personnel exceed 40%. Dale sipped his coffee. 40%'s better odds than my fantasy football league. This isn't a joke. Previous contractors have been found," she paused, choosing words carefully, "incomplete. Incomplete like IKEA furniture or incomplete like missing a leg?" She didn't answer. She just closed the folder and slid it into a drawer, like she was trying not to touch it anymore. "Report to Bay 12 at 0600, she said. "And Mr. Ferris, don't blame me if you come back in a box." Dale finished his coffee. "Wouldn't be the worst box I've been in. You should see my apartment." Squad introduction. Bay 12 smelled like ozone and machine oil, and the ship waiting there looked like someone had folded a cathedral out of gunmetal. Dale met his squad one at a time, and each introduction made him feel smaller. First was Threl Vasikor, a Drenari, tall, four-armed, with skin like cooled volcanic glass that shimmered faintly under the hangar lights. Threl had survived the second Vesserine blight, single-handedly, evacuating an orbital colony of 11,000 while the station's gravity ring failed around them. 3 commendations. 1 rebuilt spine. Second was OU meth. Escal, squat, amphibious, with skin that shifted color based on ambient toxicity levels. A built-in early warning system evolution had handed her for free. She'd mapped 42 uncharted moons and had a standing bounty on 3 different hostile worlds for excessive survival. Third was Ampraxa Ilano, whose species Dale never quite got the name of. Willowy, pale blue, with eyes that saw in 12 more wavelengths than his did. Praxa held the Kestrel Division's record for fastest extraction under active volcanic. Bombardment, 6 minutes. 4 civilians, 0 casualties. Then there was a Dale. No commendations. No rebuilt spine, no record. Just a guy in a slightly too large jumpsuit, holding a granola bar he'd smuggled from the vending machine. Threl looked him over with something between pity and confusion. "This is our 4th? "He signed the same waiver as the rest of us," said the recruiter, already walking away. Oyumeth's skin flickered a curious shade of yellow. "Human, what is your specialization?" Dale thought about it. "I'm pretty good at putting together flat-pack furniture." Nobody laughed. Praxis 12 extra. Wavelengths of vision didn't help her understand the joke either. "We're rescuing survivors from Karath 9, Threl said flatly, like reciting a death sentence. "A planet with lethal atmospheric pressure, apex predators the size of transport vessels, and a solar cycle that boils standing water twice a day." Dale zipped up his jumpsuit. "Sounds like July in Ohio." The squad exchanged a look that Dale would later learn was the universal alien expression for, "This human is going to die immediately." Comedy escalation loop. "The planet's gravity is 1.8 times galactic standard," Threl warned as they boarded. "Your bones will ache within the hour." Dale stretched his back. "I carry 60-pound water cases for 8 hours a night." "This the same or worse?" Threl blinked all 4 eyes slowly. "Worse, possibly. The air contains trace sulfur compounds," Oyumeth added, color shifting to a warning orange. "It smells, according to previous reports, catastrophic. Ever been to a 4th of July cookout after my uncle eats gas station eggs?" Dale said. "This'll be a nice change of pace." Oyumeth stared. "I do not know what a gas station egg is, and I do not believe I want to." Praxa pulled up a hollow map, the terrain rendering in jagged red spikes. Localized storms generate lightning strikes. every 4 seconds across the extraction zone. Dale nodded slowly. So Florida. I am unfamiliar with Florida. Consider yourself lucky. The native fauna, Threll said, voice dropping lower. Hunt in coordinated packs and can smell blood from 12 kilometers. Dale scratched his stubble. That's basically my aunt's chihuahuas at Thanksgiving. Little guys never quit. Chihuahuas, OU Meth repeated, tasting the unfamiliar word like it might be dangerous. The surface temperature swings 90 degrees between dawn and midday, Praxa said. Suits fail within minutes without active cooling. I once worked a shift in a warehouse with no AC in August, then walked outside into a Cleveland winter without a jacket 'cause I forgot it in my locker, Dale shrugged. Wasn't fun. Wasn't fatal either. The squad went quiet. Threll made a small worried noise Dale couldn't translate. Final briefing note, Threll said, voice grave. There have been reports of localized gravitational anomalies near the crash site. Reality itself becomes unreliable. Dale considered this for a long moment. Yeah, that one's new, he admitted. I got nothing for that one. The whole squad looked strangely relieved that something, finally, had stumped him. Arrival and world reveal. Looked like a bruise stretched across a horizon. Purple sky. Orange dust storms rolling like living things. Distant lightning stitching the clouds together in constant violent seams. The moment the ramp lowered, Threll's suit display flooded red. Oyumeth's skin cycled through 6 warning colors in 10 seconds flat. Praxa's cooling unit whined like it was already giving up, hissing steam into the superheated air. Dale stepped off the ramp in his jumpsuit, squinted at the horizon and said, reminds me of Arizona. Your vitals, Threll said, staring at a scanner, voice tight with disbelief. They're normal. Feels like a dry sauna, Dale said, wiping sweat off his brow. Little intense. Not bad, though. Oyumeth's color deepened to a shade that, on her species, meant alarm bordering on panic. Human. Our suits are rated for environments less hostile than this, and they are failing. You are wearing cloth. Dale looked down at his jumpsuit like he was noticing it for the first time. Yeah, I run hot. Nobody had a response to that. The storm wall. A dust storm the size of a small country rolled toward the crash site. Wind speeds clocked at levels that would flatten steel. The squad scrambled into deployment formation, anchoring reinforced shelter struts into the ground, running full storm protocol with backup generators screaming. Dale watched them work for a minute, then wandered off toward a rocky outcrop, found a natural windbreak, sat down with his back against the stone, and ate his granola bar while the storm howled past 20 feet away. How? Oyumeth demanded afterward. Are you not dead? Found a spot out of the wind. Same thing you do at a football game in November. The apex predator. A voranth, a horned, 6-legged predator the size of a school bus, emerged from a ravine, screeching a challenge that cracked rock. Threll readied a plasma cannon. Praxa called for immediate evac protocol. Oyumeth began broadcasting a threat deterrent frequency at max output. Dale, 20 feet away, held very still, made himself look small, and slowly backed toward a boulder without making eye contact. Exactly like his uncle taught him to do, with a black bear that wandered into their campsite in Michigan once. The voranth sniffed the air, lost interest, and lumbered off toward easier prey. Threll lowered the cannon slowly. It left. Didn't want to fight it, Dale said. Wasn't worth the trouble. Same logic as a bear. You don't run, you don't stare, you just let it get bored of you. Praxa's internal log entry that night, translated later, read, Subject displayed textbook predator avoidance. Behavior on first contact with an unknown apex species, using instinctive protocol matching 0 prior encounters. Hypothesis. Human survival instincts operate on a framework we do not yet understand. Recommend further study. The flash flood. A canyon the squad was traversing filled with rushing meltwater in under 90 seconds, a phenomenon Kareth 9's geology produced with lethal regularity. Threll deployed emergency flotation gear. Oyumeth amphibious dove for safety in familiar water. Praxa was swept sideways, screaming through the comms for extraction. Dale grabbed a length of cable, wedged himself between 2 boulders, and rode the current out like he was tubing down a river back home, eventually hooking Praxa by the collar and hauling her onto a rock shelf. You just caught me, Praxa said, stunned, water streaming off her suit. Did this every summer as a kid. River behind my grandma's place got wild after storms. You learn to read the current or you don't come home for dinner.
The silence.
The squad's sensors detected nothing. No wind, no wildlife calls, no storm activity. An unnatural quiet that Threll flagged immediately as the most dangerous sign yet, historically correlated with subterranean predator ambushes that struck without warning. Full lockdown protocol. Weapons hot. Nobody moved. Dale crouched down, pressed his palm flat against the dirt, and waited. Something's coming, he said finally. Feel it in the ground before you hear it. Same as when the cellar shakes right before a tornado touches down back home. 4 seconds later, the ground erupted as a burrowing predator the size of a bus surged upward, exactly where the squad had been standing before. Dale's warning had already moved them 30 feet clear. Threll stared at him like he'd rewritten a law of physics. You knew. Didn't know. Just felt wrong. You get a nose for that stuff growing up. Somewhere weather can kill you twice a year. Status flip. By day 12, nobody double-checked Dale's calls anymore. When he said move, they moved. When he sat still and told them to hold, they held. Threll had stopped explaining hazards to him in technical terms and started just asking, familiar or unfamiliar, trusting Dale's answer over the scanners half the time. He is not stronger than us, Oyumeth said quietly to Praxa one evening, watching Dale calmly repair a coolant line with what looked like duct tape and stubbornness. He is not faster. He does not have our training. No, Praxa agreed, watching him work. He's just from somewhere that never stopped trying to kill him. He simply never noticed it succeeding. Cliffhanger close. On day 14, the extraction beacon they'd been tracking finally responded. A survivor signal, buried deep in a canyon system flagged on every map as unsurveyed, proceed at own risk. Threll ran the scan twice, then a third time, because the first 2 results seemed impossible. The signal's genuine, he said slowly. But the readings around it, he turned the display toward Dale, hands unsteady. This isn't natural terrain. This is a structure, buried, and it's transmitting something back at us. Oyumeth's skin had gone a color none of them had seen before. Dale leaned in, studying the pulsing waveform on the display for a long, quiet moment. Huh, he finally said, tilting his head. That's new. Nobody found that reassuring.